Hello everyone, my name is Dennis Ronstein.
My name is Peter Gorecki.
My name is Miloš Vukadinovic.
And my name is Fatima Shadi. We want to thank you guys for your time today, and we would like to start presenting penetrating the European market for the Brown Shoe Company. So first we want to start off by giving you an overview of the Brown Shoe Company. The Brown Shoe Company serves a broad range of customers, providing them family, fashion, and sports-related shoes that they can wear, and the brands that they provide are Sam Edelman, Fertilizer, Dr. Scholl's, and Via Spiga, amongst many others. Then let's look at the financial data regarding the Brown Shoe Company. Brown Shoe Company has $2.5 billion in sales worldwide, from which they have $53 million just from foreign sales. And these are data from them selling $48 million pair of shoes in 2014. Now that we have looked at the financial data, let's look at some sales data. Brown Shoe Company focuses, as you can see, focuses mainly on wholesale, where they have 86% of the sales, and in the retail, they have 14% of the sales.
We believe that Brown Shoe will face 5 key obstacles to European penetration, first of which being competition, and we broke that down into 2 categories: the international competitors like LMS and Parker and others, and then there's the within country competition. So each country has their own big distributor. We also think that product accessibility could be a obstacle, making the website user-friendly and having a mobile interface. We also believe that supply chain management could also be an issue in terms of logistics and the cost, which we'll go into further later. Also economical and currency, so countries' GDP, the exchange rates, and the currency stability. So for say if the euro crashed tomorrow, the GDP would probably decline, and therefore they would not be able to afford the shoes there. And then lastly, political, and that is EU and government regulations and laws.
So we have analyzed different countries within Europe, and we have come up with 3 European markets that we'll be penetrating. It is the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. And then we will go further detail on why we have selected the 3 to start off with, because we have short-term goals, long-term goals, and future goals. So for United Kingdom, we have selected the UK because it is the biggest footwear market in Europe, with a share of 14.1%. This equates to about sales of $13.8 billion in 2013, and it will grow to $16 billion in 2018. The compound annual growth rate is 2.9% for the 5-year period between 2013 and 2018. This coincides with the 5-year plan that Brown Shoe Company has, and this is a very critical market to go into in order for Brown Shoe Company to be successful in the European market.
So we also need to look at the consumer base in these 3 countries as well. We decided to choose 2 indicators to describe more about our consumer base, and that is population demographics and GDP, more in particular, purchasing power parity. To begin off, we decided to go with population because Sam Edelman and Naturalizer have each its own target market, particularly middle-aged women between the ages of 30 and 54 years of age. And so we decided to look at the population demographic of each country. So start off with the UK. UK's female population age group is around 33% of the total population. That gives Brown Shoe Company enough of its marketing capabilities to a broader consumer base, and also fits along their target market. And also, we need to also look at the GDP. Before I explain about the GDP, I want to explain why we decided to use GDP purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity actually includes some details about currency, fluctuation, those types of things, as well as consumer confidence in buying these products. And as we look at it, it's been steady around $35,000. Keep in mind, this is actually with the global financial crisis, and this has been steady for the past 4 years.
Next off, we have Germany. Germany is the 2nd biggest footwear market in the European market share, with a market share of 12.2%. This equates to total revenues of $12 billion in 2013, and will increase to $13.9 billion by 2018. The compounded growth rate of 2.8% is also similar with the United Kingdom's for the 5-year period between 2013 to 2018. This is a fairly high compound annual growth rate, and this also coincides, and this will help with the growth rate that Brown Shoe Company also probably expects as you forecast sales and once you go into the European market. And it is also very critical to capture this market share as well.
And let's look at the Germany's female population group between the ages of 30 and 54. It is around 36% of the total population. This is actually the highest among the 3 EU members that we're trying to capture the market at. So I feel like it's necessary for Brown Shoe Company in order to market to this area because there's a lot more consumers that can be reached. On top of that, we also need to take into consideration Germany's GDP. It is the highest among EU members. And I feel like if it's the highest among EU members, despite the current Eurozone crisis that's going on, I feel like Brown Shoe Company will have no problem selling its products in Germany.
And lastly, we'll be penetrating the French footwear market. France has the 3rd largest market share with about 10.6%, and this equates to $10.4 billion of the market share in 2013, and sales will increase to $10.64 billion by 2018. Although the compound annual growth rate is a lot lower than what we saw in the United Kingdom and in Germany, this is still a critical market to penetrate because of the high market share that France has in the European footwear market.
And let's also look again at France's target market. France's target market is 31% of the total population. Even though it is the lowest among EU members, it is still 1/3 of the population. So let's take that into consideration as well. It also gives a broader basis to market to these people. On top of that, we also need to look at GDP. GDP for France has been steady around $37,000. This is actually the 2nd highest among EU members. Again, similar as to UK and Germany, they each experience all stability factor, and also a broader consumer base that includes confidence.
Our team decided there are 3 main strategies that Brown Shoe can benefit from and eventually flourish using those. We're doing e-commerce, distribution, and co-creation, which we will go into detail further. Let's first start with e-commerce. France, UK, and Germany are rated in the top 10 e-commerce retailers in the world, with UK coming at number 3, France coming number 6, and Germany at number 5. They're expected to have between 8 to 12% growth every year up to 2018 projected. And as you can see in these graphs, at least 50% of the population bought something online in 2014. We believe that they need to take advantage of the growing online sector, and we believe that they're a top tier market, meaning they're mature and they've already been using it, so it's there for them to use. We believe they need to create Naturalizer and Sam Edelman's websites in their respective languages. And in order to be successful, they need to include reviews, ratings, and product recommendations. Also, we need to ensure that websites are user-friendly and they're easy to use. Also, we want to make sure that they have a mobile view, so when people go on the website on their smartphone, we want to make sure it doesn't just ask them to go to an app, because that oftentimes that takes a lot of time and people do not want to go through trouble. So having that compatibility. And lastly, we want to make sure that they implement a data analytics to understand the customer. So short term, maybe implement that and collect the data over the 5 years. And then the long-term goal would be to figure out the retail trends using the data they've been collecting over the last 5 years. And as you can see here, a question was asked specifically in UK, what makes the buyer come back again to an online retailer that they have bought before from. And the top response is lower prices, they have low delivery costs, and they had a good experience with the retailer and so on.
All right, so the biggest thing that our group actually acknowledged in this case study is that we analyzed Brown Shoe Company's operating and selling models, and to kind of figure out what would be the best option into penetrating these markets, including in the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. And we came through different ways of going about it, and we were discussing whether to do a joint venture or to do the distributor strategy. And so I'll be explaining why we chose the distributor model. With a joint venture, it is a higher risk, and so even though you have lower risk at the very beginning, you still have a high risk into penetrating these markets. And Either way, in the long term, in order for Brown Shoe Company to be successful and to see growth within a company, you're going to have to penetrate the European markets either way. That's without a doubt, whether it's going to be in 5 years or in 10 or 20. European markets are a must in order for Brown Shoe Company to succeed. And so we believe that the distributor strategy model will enable Brown Shoe Company to penetrate these markets at a low risk and have no inventory risk, or will have minimal inventory risk in order to implement the strategy. And so the different ways of going about the distributor model is going through an exclusive distribution or a non-exclusive. And we recommend the non-exclusive because that way you could partner up with different retailers across different multiple facets of the industry, and you could better penetrate the markets, which is what Brown Shoe Company is looking for. Increasing the market share and getting that $30 million by year 5 and having the ROIC of 15% and a profit distribution of 20%. Which was stated in the case. And the market share for Europe, according to the respected facets of that consumers go through, are 59.8% through the clothing, footwear and sportswear retailers, and 9.4% through department stores. Advertising and marketing will also be highly critical in order to make this campaign successful. And so you'll see here we have kind of went into more specific details about each country that will be penetrating the markets. With UK, as you can see, has out of the whole entire footwear market, in the footwear market share, clothing represents 72.1% of it. Department stores represent 14.4%. In Germany, it is a little bit less, with clothing retailers having 69.5% of the market share, and department stores having 8.4%. And lastly, France with 67.9% of the market share going to clothing retailers. And then France has a bigger hypermarket, supermarket, and discounters with 12.2%, which we'll be going into more specifics soon. And the department stores with 7.6%. And so we went even further as far as analyzing which possible distributors and possible retailers and department stores that we have pre-selected and possible sources to distribute to implement the strategy. And we believe that distributing to these companies or similar companies will be able to better penetrate the markets. So we have House of Fraser in the United Kingdom, Topshop, and Selfridges and Company. Every single one of these has the pros and cons, but we believe that these are the top ones. So with the department store in the UK that we said earlier represents about 12% of the market share, and they have 60 stores across the UK and Ireland. Topshop has 300 stores in the United Kingdom, and Selfridges and Company has 4 locations. However, this company represents Nordstrom's, and I do know that Sam Edelman's is a big, or Nordstrom's, we provide Sam Edelman's to Nordstrom's in the US, and this is very representative of that. And all 3 of these have very similar competitors that we will be competing with in the European market share, which is very critical to test the markets and see where we stand when we offer these products in the same store and within the same vicinity as our competitors. Next is Germany. We have Karstadt, Deichmann, and Galeria Kaufhof. All of these also go well with our distributor strategy. Deichmann has about 1,300 stores throughout Germany, and so that will be our biggest avenue in implementing the strategy. And lastly, we have France. We have Galeries Lafayette, which is a department store, and Vivardi. And Vivardi will be has about 4,500 stores, and includes competitors including Michael Kors, Manelli, San Marino, and Padat, which is all competitors within the French market.
I also want to add that we chose these distributors because they have our competition in them. So we want to be where our competition is. Plus, we chose these stores because they have a wide variety of stores, like a wide range in the countries that we want to go into. That means we can serve our customers much better in a much easier way. Go.
We believe that our final strategy is the most innovative and the one we're most excited about, and that is co-creation. We believe that co-creation allows companies to build relationships with their customers through their products. Meaning when a customer is more involved with the creative side and the social side of the product they're going to purchase, usually they'll be more committed to that brand and to that company. And for example, in Naturalizer, Some of the co-creations they can do is allow the customer to choose the sole width, shoe and shoe color laces, and strap style. And for Sam Edelman, do heel width and height, patterns like cheetah print and etc. And shoe width. And they're small things, but they can make a big difference when you allow the customer to choose, you have a little bit of a choice in what they're buying.
Now, let's look at the future outlook. We have provided you some strategies, but we want to look at the future as well. For the future, we want to improve our supply chain management. We saw that in 2014, Brown Shoe Company had a backlog of $284.6 million that they had unfulfilled orders for. So that is money that we are losing. So we want to make sure we focus on this and improve this. We want to improve this by reducing the lead time of the ordering product from 90 days to at least 60 days. We also want to do another thing. Since we're moving to Europe, we want to make sure we improve and grow our facilities, manufacturing facilities in Ethiopia and other parts of Africa, so we can have easier access to European market. We don't want to just keep importing from Asia and make it harder for the customers. We want to make sure, since with the co-creation strategy that we have, we want to make sure we're easily able to supply the product to the customers as fast as possible, which we can do from Africa.
Yeah, and to add to that, because we're doing the co-creation, usually the consumer would be wanting this product with a shorter time frame, and in order to achieve that, we would have to have a manufacturing facility that is capable of producing the product in a short time frame, and also to enable the logistics aspect of it to also be able to ship it to the consumer in a very timely manner.
In a costly manner too.
Okay. For the future, we also want to open a few subsidiaries for these, for Sam Edelman's and Naturalizer in countries like UK and other countries that are more stabilizing and better, offer better economic stability. So we want to do this to test the opening market. We want to open with just a few and not so many that we come into a loss. We want to test the market and then slowly creep into the market with the subsidiaries.
Yeah.
Next, another important thing, we want to focus on the corporate social responsibility. We want to implement and promote your old shoes for discount. So what is this? Your old shoes for discount is a give back program that we want to implement in Brown Shoe Company. This is customers bring in their old shoes and get a discount on their next shoes. But what happens to those old shoes? Those old shoes are either we redonate them to a charity, or we can recycle them. So that goes with the green in Naturalizer and Nature, so which is promoting your company and social responsibility. This will help us retain customers because customers will be coming back, and this will also be very efficient in bringing in new customers since they see what you're doing with the company.
Yeah, and and myself and Milos here, we're from Europe, and when we go back there and when we talk to families, one big aspect of the consumer sentiment in the European market is corporate responsibility and just like the sustainability aspect of everything. Europe in recent years has given a lot of effort into creating a sustainable culture, and this is like throughout like decades worth of work and everything. And so we believe that by implementing this corporate responsibility strategy, we're able to differentiate from our competitors and to penetrate the market in a very efficient, but also keeping the consumer sentiments in mind in order to have a successful campaign and in order to have a market strategy that will do a really good job.
Next, closing thoughts. Let's go over what we presented to you today. We selected 3 strategies, which are e-commerce, distribution, and most importantly, our innovative one, co-creation. These 3 strategies will help us penetrate the European market very efficiently and will give you the $30+ million that you want in the first 5 years. But in the future, you can also penetrate the market further with the other 50% of the European market that you haven't even dipped into yet. So, which will bring in a larger amount of revenue. Also, we understand this new direction will be very expensive and will require a huge capital and cash expenditures, but you have to understand, in the long run, it will be very effective and it will bring you back your money. In the long run, it will yield a 15% return on invested capital, and it will give you a direct profit contribution of 20%. That's all we have today, so if you have any questions for us, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think you can talk a bit more about it sounds very expensive, as you said, to start setting up this kind of customized supply chain. The co-creation strategy sounds really novel, but I know that there are some other people in the fashion industry already doing this, and so talk a bit more about your thoughts. Is this something that we're going to be creating specifically for Europe? Is it your recommendation the brown shoe take this global, or how do you really justify that?
So
kind of
you're
product?
entering the new European market and you're dipping into it. You have no idea what the market has. You have a idea how much the footwear market is, but you have no idea how you're gonna do in it. I mean, we can all predict, but in the end, what happens is what happens. But the co-creation, when you implement that, you also get a way to enter the market with a new idea, which you haven't tried before, but which has worked for other companies, which will also let you connect with the customers and form a bond with them. So you're a new company, you want to make sure that the customers feel connected with you, because if they feel connected, they want to come back to you.
Yeah, and answering your question, I believe that it would be crucial in order to maybe do a test pilot program in order to see how it goes within maybe one of the countries or within a given area. And we understand that this may be a costly thing, but because like you said, you see a lot of the industry going towards this co-creation idea, but you don't want Brown Shoe Company to be lagging behind in this, So even though this may be costly, it's gonna happen regardless. And once you have an upside and you're the innovator in the industry, you're able to capture that market share early on in order to penetrate it more. And we believe that so this is going towards more of the manufacturing side. So we would have to have a very good relationship with the manufacturer that will able to supply us with the necessary tools and production capacity in order to make this a successful campaign. But also we do realize that this is going to be more costly for the consumer. So we have to bring a marketing strategy that this is more beneficial for the consumer, because you're paying more to be more individualized, and I mean across a wide across all industries, whether it's laptops, whether it's I don't know, whatever it is, you see a wide variety of different products that are either in different colors, so people are more individualized, oh, I love green, so I'm gonna have a green laptop or whatever. And more so will be with something that you're wearing all the time, or a good amount of time. And so we think that this is very critical in order to in the future outlook and to increase the penetration in the European market.
And the follow-on question, the other part of your CSR program was recycling or donation?
Yes.
Which seems even more difficult than co-creation. Because at least co-creation is something within our management. We can actually set up the manufacturing side to do that, as you said.
And that's where we're looking at a future outlook. We want to see, first of all, does our co-creation program work? Can we penetrate the market firsthand? And if not, what else do we need to do that's unique from our competitors to set ourselves apart? Because the European shoe markets are very, very large in Europe. So you're coming in a little bit later, so you have to somehow set yourself apart in the first place. And if you can't with co-creation, what else can you do that people will love and want to buy your brand and associate themselves with your brand?
So you depend upon distribution then to manage that part. And how willing are they going to be managing just the one small entry brand
That's
to come into?
that comes in after you start your own subsidiaries, so that's
okay.
in the long run. So once you start your subsidiaries, you want to build more of a stronger relationship with the customers. So when you show them that you're socially active and you care about the environment, like your name suggests, so you care about the environment and you want to be active in the community by giving back, that is going to create more of a connection between you and the customers, which will also, like I said before, bring back the customers and bring in more customers.
Yeah. We want to highlight that both of these are in the long-term run. We understand that Right now, it is highly critical to penetrate the European market, but we also like want to give you different aspects in like a longer term, and to like once we actually do establish like a couple of retailers across like across like selected countries, and then like we could implement like these programs. But the co-creation would be something not like as long term, but like something that could be implemented along with penetrating the European market, and that could be implemented within the North Americas or whatever you guys like to be.
I have two questions. Number one, sticking with this topic, with your recommendation of so much upfront investment on the ground, did your team give any consideration to an acquisition of an existing brand, strong brand in Europe that would give you some of these resources without starting yourself?
We did not look into that, but that is definitely something that that would be very good to do, just because it would enable you to already have established. So like the company that you would be acquiring, they already established the market share and already have. Like I think the biggest thing is we have to step back and to look at the European market, just because the North American market is different than the European market, and so like you have like the company and the sources to actually like kind of like supplement what you want to do as a company. So I think that is very good point.
Also, in regards to that, if you buy a company there, you want to make sure it's a brand, a company, something that is mirroring your own brand. So you don't want a brand or company which does not reflect what Brown Shoe Company is built on. You don't want a brand that doesn't reflect Sam Edelman's or Naturalizer. So you want something to reflect what you stand as a company. So I feel like that would be important if you want to go down that road.
Not only that, but we also have to consider about EU regulations and laws such as competition-wise, because we have to go through all the loopholes in the system in order to understand if we buy this firm out, what will that do in our relationship with the government aspect of Europe, such as their regulators and what they feel about the competition.
And my other question's on a different topic. The team did a good job in identifying those department stores that you would target. Did you do any work on any existing, your first idea was around e-commerce. Did you do any work to identify e-commerce sites already existing in the market that you would partner with? For example, in the U.S. we have Zappos or Shoes.com. Is there a similar one that you would recommend?
Yes, and we do understand that Brown Shoe Company actually owned Shoes Company or Shoes.com before they sold it off. And I think that strategy is good. What was good in the best interest of Brown Shoe Company, but also we want to be enabling, because we sold off that e-commerce aspect of it, we also want to make our websites more accessible to the consumer. But to answer your question, yes, we did not provide it just because if we're gonna, Amazon is a big player in it, but also different countries have their own separate e-commerce sites that are just solely dependent on either shoes or clothing retail. I strictly focus on bringing it straight to the consumer, because that is the biggest way in order for, you could research online as much as you want, but in order, if you are presented this product in front of you and you're able to look at it, that is, I think, to anyone in any market, I think that is kind of what they look for, and I think that is why we focus just strictly on the retail.
And we were considerate of time. We have 20 minutes. We don't have so much information.
Okay.
For e-commerce, one thing that I want to point out is when we were researching, we found out that a lot of the websites are accessed only from the United States.
Yeah, I mean, currently there isn't a site from our research for Naturalizer and Sam Elements in Europe and those countries.
So it's a huge market that we're missing out. And probably that could be because we don't have efficient enough websites that go into these countries or the whole European market. And another factor that he pointed out was the language barrier. We want to make sure we have the language for the language. So I see where that connection is. When I'm in the United States, I want English, but when I'm in Pakistan, I want my language. So.
Very good. There were many of the aspects of your presentation that I felt were interesting. The e-commerce, the use of distribution, and the notion of exploring subsidiaries. But when you talked about the distributors, and you recommended 3 in each country. Is it your recommendation that we select the best of those, or do you recommend we should utilize all 3?
I think there's further analysis that needs to be done. We were only given an X amount of time in order to do this, so I came up with the ones that I saw, and also it is highly I don't think it's very hard to go into this website and try to translate and see how many stores they have within the country and to analyze what I also went into more depths and try to see the price ranges that these companies offered, Selfridge and Company, that resembled Nordstrom, which is a very that is probably, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, with Sam Edelman's, that is a big aspect of what you distribute to Nordstrom's, and so having that is what I looked into, and but there are definitely more different retailers and different department stores within the country, but those are the ones that either have. Oh,
Time's up.
sorry.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good.